This is Blessing Salami introducing Woman at the Well.
Welcome to the Woman at the Well, a place of hope and healing.
Hello everyone. This is Blessing Salami, your host. I'm Woman at the Well. I greet you all according to your time. We have a special episode today, and it is so funny, yet inspirational. Is that the word? Yes, it is, because the Black History Month, and we are here to show racism the red card. It is not the usual, so it's going to be phenomenal. Like I said, get your chairs, get your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, your drink, whatever you need to sit down and listen to us, viewers. Thank you so much for subscribing. Keep sharing the buttons. It is your host, Blessing Salami, at the well this morning. With me are
Great.
and
Shannon.
thank you so much, ladies, for coming. And we are just about to start a very important topic: racism. Not just in society, but looking at it in the point of view as women, looking at it from the point of view as people who work, corporate ladies, but also looking at it as God's perspective. What would God do? He created us male and female. There's no Jew, there's no gender, but there's racism. Why? And I've got this lovely thing as well. Yeah, from a lovely friend. I won't tell you who it is, so the other one doesn't feel jealous. But here we go. It is a beautiful, lovely afternoon, and we're discussing this absolutely. It is standing firm in pride and with power, and we're here to discuss racism. I'll start with you, Shan, because it was so funny when I called you and you said, "Me, why that topic?" And what drew me to talk to invite you for this is and it was funny how oblivious you sounded. Like,
Yeah.
I've never encountered it. What you want about?
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So, from your perspective, what do you think racism is?
Basically, it's people who are taking a judgment upon a person based on colour, creed, religion. And I've never been party to being racist towards anyone. I was actually brought up with people of colour coming to my home. So for me, I had never actually seen racism from a young age. However, as I got older and started working within my employment, over the years I've met different people who wasn't brought up with my sort of ethics, if you want to call it, with my experiences and my knowledge. And I could see that there was racism, and it was quite clear there was racism, not just in the my workplace, but everywhere around. And it did shock me because it's something that, like I said, I haven't been a party to, but I also do understand a lot of the racism through employment or from education, whatever. It's lack of education, lack of knowledge. And we were just discussing, now, me and Grace, the fact that I was brought up in an older culture as well, where I was brought up with grandparents, and it was always said to be polite and call a person coloured. So unless you're educated, you wouldn't know that you could be using the wrong terminology that could be offensive because you were being brought up to think that it wasn't offensive.
Yeah.
So I think education is a big part of, sort of the environment, and yeah, that's how people learn and that's how people understand what racism actually is, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. What about you, Grace? For people of what they call color, I don't like being called somebody of color. I'd rather you call me my name or call me a black girl. I'd rather that than color. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think?
Me and Shannon was discussing earlier. I personally, just me, I'm not saying which is wrong or which is right. I personally do not have a preference or anything against how I'm addressed. I'm more about what context in which it is being used.
Yeah.
That's what determines what I feel offended by or what I'm okay with. So it's all about context for me, and not just with racism, with anything in life. That's just my approach to life. So And that principle sort of cut across everything.
Yeah.
So it's more about on what context.
Yes.
Because sometimes people don't intend to be offensive. It could have just been, like Shannon has rightly said, it could have been ignorance that they probably not just because we live in a world where things are constantly changing. So phrases that were normal back in the days might not be offensive, and phrases that are offensive now were probably a normal way of addressing people back in the day. So sometimes it could be that keeping up with the evolving times could be a challenge for individuals. So that's why I don't focus too much on what's said, what I'm being called. It's more about in what context are you referring to it. If that makes sense. That's just me personally. So because life is too short to be too petty about things. So if I can clearly see that someone wasn't meaning to be offensive and they've said something that they didn't mean to, I don't even pay too much attention into it personally. That's just my
I also believe it's a very personal thing to a specific person, because if somebody wanted to take offense from what you're saying or how you've approached a person and whatnot, then it's very personal to that person. And rather than learning why actually have you referred to me in that way, there's little understanding from each person, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I agree.
I do agree with you in terms of context, because you could call me, like I said, I would rather call me a black girl than the girl with the collar, because I've got a color. That's a color. Yeah, that's a color. That's a color. But if you say the black girl there, trying to differentiate me from the crowd, that's fine. But if you say the black girl with, and then you use shitty words, then I'll come for you. And you know me, I'll definitely come for you any way I can and possible. So, like you talked about, Grace, I'll pick on you now on this one. Things evolving and changing, and things were not acceptable in the past, but now acceptable, and vice versa. Is there anything you think evolved over time in terms of race, how people view racism in school, workplace, like Shan mentioned, workplace, society out there? Do you think anything has evolved so far?
As we can see from our day-to-day interaction, and if we know a bit about history as how things used to be back in the days, we would say, especially in the UK where we live, immigration is thin. People are constantly migrating from one part of the world to another. Probably we can say back in the days, people, just like Shannon was sharing about the village where she lives, when your son was in school, I think you said it was just the one person that was not Welsh. I don't know, should I call them black now or colour? Whichever one they prefer. So it was just the one person. But I'm sure if you look now, there's probably a bigger group rather than just the ones. So we can say immigration probably has made a lot of changes. And the more of the migration, the more exposure people are having to the different races that exist in the world. Because some people, believe it or not, I know we're in 2025, I'm sure there are parts of even this UK,
especially
that people they probably wouldn't have seen any other person that looks different to them. I'm sure that exists if we want to be real with ourselves. So, but fortunately, people that live in the parts of the UK where people have migrated to has given them the exposure and the understanding to know more about other people's culture. And how people prefer to be addressed, and whatnot. So we can say majorly migration has been at the forefront of the changes that we're seeing today.
And we have been also challenged by the same migration. Go back to where you're coming from, things like that. They've come here and they've taken all our jobs. Why should it be about them? They've taken all our houses, and stuff like that. I bet you don't hear things like that, do you, Shan?
I hear that all the time, especially within the employment I'm in. And there's a lot of people that's looking for accommodation. And unfortunately, because of lack of resources, money, the governments now have got lack of funding. And initially, everyone goes to the race card, you know, where they say, oh, they've taken all our housing, that means us, we can't get house, you know, British people, well, not British people, people of, you know, all white, and they instantly look at the racist cards and go to that point of view, and I have to sort of take it upon myself to provide a little bit of education that is not just because black people or other cultures are coming into the country and taking all their accommodation. I have to say it's the lack of funding, lack of money, is the resources which are an issue here, not because of other people coming into the country, asylum seekers being one.
Lovely. I think this is where we take a break and we'll come back in a sec or two. Welcome back, everyone. Hi. Just before we went on break, we were talking about migration and the blame culture. Is their fault? Is their fault? They came in, they took that, they took this, they took that. Well, newsflash. I'm just going to use this platform as well to tell you that these ones you call migrants or whatever you call them, immigrants, we all come from somewhere, and some people were actually born here. I don't want to sound so rude, but I'm using this platform to appeal to us that we need to stand firm and we need to stand in power. Because this is the theme of this year. We're standing firm and we're saying no to racism in any way, in any form, in any shape. And I'm going to use language. We're using language. And is there anything you've come across that you had to think that you were taken aback by as a result of the language used at any point because of your race or your culture?
I think a lot of my experiences, my personality has probably interfered with a lot of my experiences. And because I have this personality of not taking certain things to heart, especially if it's from someone that I probably care the least about.
Yes.
So that's just, I'm sorry to be, honestly blunt, but anyone that's not within my family circle, I don't lose sleep over anything they say to me, so I don't even give it a thought. So
that's good.
So maybe that's probably why I might not have a lot of experiences to share with you, because it's probably just flown over my head, because I probably would never see them again or meet them again. So nothing they say probably have an effect on me in that way. So the only people that whose words or approach or whatever has affected me are the people closest to me, the people I care about, which are my family. So maybe
that's a very good mindset for your own mental health.
As blunt as I am, I'll go for you straight away, wouldn't I? Because I
don't take it to heart at all. I just I've got too many things.
I do think from an older background and a very small village where I lived, I do think a lot of language that is used is not meant offensive. It's just some people have got lack of education. I was saying to Grace earlier, you're talking over 30 years ago, I went to London with my son. Took him to a judo, quite a large judo competition, and I was always brought up to say the coloured person because it was polite. You could never say black years ago. Black was deemed as racist and impolite. So when I was in London, who are quite multicultural and very far advanced compared to the valleys, the communities in the valleys, I did actually use the term coloured, and I was quickly pulled aside by a parent of another child and said, you can't use that here.
There you go.
And I'm like, what? Well, what am I supposed to use? And they said, you refer to the person as a black person. And I'm like, I can't do that. That's awful. That's really, really offensive. And they were like, no, coloured is really offensive. And I'm like, the difference from, you're talking 4 hours over the bridge from small valleys, community to multicultural areas such as London, it's only 4 hours across the bridge, and yet we are like 10 years behind with education then, you know? So, I do believe that is an issue as well.
Do you think then, because I've been called different names, I've been called the N-words, and I'll go back with, attack you straight away. Sometimes I'll hold my cool and go to the appropriate authority to report it and what have you, and then get it sorted. And what do you think is ever going to end? I know you've never had to go through it yourself, Shan.
Yeah.
I believe you feel privileged. And I was speaking to you and some gentleman. He was like, "Oh, I may not really understand how you feel, but I think it's awful." And that's really nice to know that there are people who are educated and can really empathize with
Yeah.
others with what they go through. I don't want to be in my 60s, 70s and then see my children, going through the same sort of discussion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was speaking to Grace earlier
Yeah.
about the relationship my son has with his best friend, he's grown up with it from the age of 3, and my son is now 40, in his 40s, and he refers to his friend with a derogatory term because his friend asks him to call him the N-word. And I do believe the onus and the responsibility is not just on what they class as white people with lack of education. I do think it's also the education from people within black communities and, the general culture. You hear music videos on social media and they refer to themselves with the N-word. And I just think there isn't no one direction for anyone because there's a lot of different terms being used, which is acceptable and not acceptable. And nobody knows what to refer to people as, which is appropriate or is acceptable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I do think there's a lot of onus on the black communities or people of colour as well to be able to help educate other people correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're called now the black
BAME.
the BAME. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Black, Asian, minority,
that's
ethnic
it.
group.
That's it. That's what we're classed as now.
Thing.
It's just a shame that one of our guests couldn't make it. Otherwise, we'd have had a mixture of what we wanted to actually put across. But yeah, sometimes people feel I just got this example to give. This lady, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me calling her name or calling her out, Melissa Thomas, and she very educated. So she went for this interview, obviously gone through all the stages and went through. And as soon as she got to the door, they went, oh, we didn't expect you to be a black person because her name already was what we call an English name. And I love some parts of Africa and the Asians. And my name is Blessing, by the way, and then there's Grace. But there are a couple of people who would rather stick to their cultural name. If you can pronounce it, pronounce it. If you can't pronounce it, it's up to you. But they make you. I love what Dr. Shola. Oh my God, she will tell you as it is. You must pronounce her name the way is supposed to be pronounced, and that for her shows respect. But I'm not coming from that angle this morning. I'm coming from a Christian perspective, and the woman at the well had been a Samaritan woman and met a Jew, Christ the Jew, and he brought himself to no significance at all to talk to this lady. What do you think, Grace? It could have been, you know what, you're not my level. I don't talk to people like you.
Yeah, exactly. So because I'm a believer, similar to Blessing, I make the Bible my precept.
Absolutely.
And just like the Bible story that you just referenced, so Christ didn't think, oh, she's a Samaritan woman, I'm a Jew. So there was nothing like race or you belong to this culture. There was nothing like that. We are all meant to live as one body. And the way I always say, even in this current generation that we live in, I'm like, regardless of the color of your skin, as long as we all bleed red blood, which is what we're representing today in our red colored outfit. So as long as what comes through when you have a cut is color red, it's not different for Shannon, it's not different for me, it's the same color. We're meant to see each other as one. So, and this is exactly, the example that Christ made when he met with the woman at the well. And I think back then there was a discrimination then. So it just goes to show that what we're experiencing in 2025 has always been
It has always
back.
been there.
Yeah, like
yeah.
the saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun.
No.
So even back in the Bible days, there was racism.
Absolutely.
But it's not an excuse for it to become a norm in our society. And just like you said earlier, that it would be a shame to see our children's generation still having to, fight
Right.
for the same cause
The
that
same
we've been
cause.
fighting from back in the days of John the Baptist. So yeah, it's a shame that this is 2025, but on the brighter side, I would say things are not as bad as it used to be, because I remember back in, shall I say, our grandparents' days, there were things that black people were not even, allowed to do. I think it was even worse in places like America. So they had to live in different parts of America and all that. So yeah, at least things have evolved now. It doesn't mean that there's still not room for improvements. There's always room for improvement. I'll finish on this note. Like I was saying to Shannon earlier, it's more about the individual approach. I go beyond the color of someone's skin. I just want to know you as a person, how do you like to be addressed? What are your boundaries? What are non-negotiable for you? So I take time to observe people before, what's it called, feeling, shall I say, lose my guard? Because naturally I'm a free bird. But as life goes on, as we grow older, we grow wiser. So I'm learning to always observe people from a distance and know what their boundaries are, because you don't, the last thing I hate, people who know me always say that, and I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but most people don't see it as a positive thing. I hate offending people. I don't like to make people feel a certain way. So because of that, I can be very cautious around people I'm not familiar with. So that's just my approach to life, because I'd rather be cautious than to, cause an offense. It's not because it's not just about making the person feel offended. I go away feeling worse. That, I've made someone feel a certain way. So because it has a ripple effect on me, how I've made someone feel. So I don't want to end up feeling bad. So I take my time to observe people before. So, and I think that's the same thing with racism. I don't think it's a group-wide thing about this is a BAME community, this is how you should refer to people, these are the deal breakers, this is not how you should treat them. Personally, I may be wrong, I stand to be corrected. I don't think it's something that should be about a whole race of this is how you relate with this race of people. I think it should be an individual thing. I look forward to a world where we look at the race or the color of someone's skin anymore. Just treat people as people, how address people, how they want to be addressed as who they are, not based on this is the color or race.
And that's where we come to wrap with standing firm in power and in pride, or in pride and with power. For us to stand firm, we need to know our values. We need to know our boundaries. We need to know how the other person will feel. What language or languages are acceptable.
That's right.
If I do this to this person, how would they feel? Try to empathize, be kind to people. Yes, on a personal level, possibly racism is no longer there, but on a structural level, corporate level, we know it does exist. But we're standing firm this afternoon as ladies in red, to affirm and to reaffirm that is a no to and for racism in our society. What do you say, Shan?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. See people, as individuals. Explain if you feel that you might not be using the right terminology. Ask, and hopefully people of color, black people, other religions can also help as well by pointing things out in a kind way, because not everyone means to be offensive and not everyone is racist. It's just they lack education and they're quite living in a world of ignorance. And unfortunately, not everyone's got the same level of education and experience. So I do think as women, particularly within sort of our roles, stand firm and help with educating people.
Absolutely stand firm in educating people.
I do have a comment on what Shannon said earlier. I know you did make a reference to maybe us as a community, BAME community, Black community, educating people. I agree with you partially, but at the same time, I think using the example you cited about even in some music videos that some
Yes.
Black people use the N word on each other.
Yes.
I think it's just a similar, if I can make another analogy, like I could feel like comfortably, or maybe not comfortably, but I could reference myself as, oh gosh, I'm so fat right now.
Yeah.
If that's how I feel,
Yeah.
I don't think that justifies somebody else calling me fat. So that's the way I see it. That even if artists in their music videos use the word for themselves among themselves, it doesn't justify somebody else referring to them in that way.
I do take that on board. However, again, to debate that to a degree, if you're hearing it, if you're seeing it, then to you that's a form of education. So if you're watching music videos and people are referring to themselves as
Within themselves.
as the N word, then for the younger, well, all ages really, that is a form of education, because we all, social media that's out there now, from YouTube to music videos to Facebook, etc., etc. I could name loads. That is a form of education for a lot of people, especially with lack of community education. So I do believe, as much as I get what you're saying, and I totally agree with that, I do think that people take that as part of their education and believe that that is, the way forward. But that's for another debate, I'm sure.
Yes, because I could be playing with my little one, I could get like a monkey.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you turn around and say black monkey.
Yeah.
They're two different things.
Yeah.
If you do it with hate,
Oh yeah,
then the context changes.
Yeah.
definitely, it's context.
Yeah.
When I call myself, my sisters, hi nigger, hi bro, and I hate those words. I do hate them, not because of the words or what they prompt or anything.
Yeah.
But personally, I just don't like them. Even my daughter could say, hello bro, and I'm like, who is bro in this house? Call him by his name, and I can't stand words like that. But because I call a friend, and we've been friends for 10 years running now, and because I call you a particular name doesn't mean somebody should turn around. Does that make sense?
Definitely, 100%, yeah, I get it.
And use it against you in a hateful manner.
Yes. No, I totally agree.
That's where we're coming from. And that's the part we need to get right. Yeah, that's where we stand firm. And that's where we stand in pride. That I call you, or you call me something, or you see something and you think is acceptable because it's normal in their culture. Don't turn it around to, make it a hate comment, because in context, that is discrimination.
Yeah.
That is derogatory. That is discriminatory. And that is racism. And I wouldn't want my children in the next 10 years to sit down in a red cloth like this and to start talking about the same thing we've talked about years ago. May the Lord give us understanding, and may we embrace ourselves as one, love ourselves as one, and realize that it's just a particular color of blood that flows to everybody, regardless of
the color of your skin.
The color of your skin doesn't define you.
Can I make reference, sorry to interrupt, to a film I watched quite recently, it must have been over the last year.
Yeah.
And Kevin Costner stars in this film. And for love of money, I can't recall the name of the film, but it's about...
We've got to take a break now because...
To make reference to a film that I watched within the last year. For love of money, I can't recall the name of the film, but it stars in Kevin Costner, and he's an employer, and he's within the USA government, and a black lady was his employee. And it shows the level of historical racism where she had major qualifications, major experiences, and she was a phenomenal employee. However, she couldn't use the same coffee pot as all her colleagues who were white. She had to use the toilet, which was 15 minutes away. So every time she needed to go to the loo, she had to leave her place of employment to use a black woman's loo. And that film is phenomenal. I will let Blessing know what film that is, but it opens your eyes to the historical level of racism, especially within employment. Fabulous
I
film.
don't even want to go to employment. I don't want to just start that part. Otherwise, we're not living here today, right? I don't want to talk. So let's not go there today.
Yeah.
We're just going to wrap up, ladies, and we're just going to say we stand firm in pride and with power, and
Yeah.
we say no to racism. So in pride and in power, we stand firm, and we say no to
Racism.
Say no to racism. It's not allowed. It's not acceptable. Do we agree, ladies?
Yeah.
Yes.
We say no to
We say
racism.
no to racism.
Yeah.
God bless you, viewers and subscribers. I'll see you in my next video. It's Woman at the Well. Blessing Salami.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye.
having us. Thank
The Woman at the Well, sharing your story and glory with Blessing Salami.